The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.
November 28 was a dramatic day in Georgia's recent history for all those cheering Georgia on its path towards Euro-Atlantic integration. This is the day when the Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze announced openly the ruling Georgian Dream Party's decision to abort the efforts to start the accession negotiations with the EU until 2028. He also said the cabinet would refuse all EU budget support. The Prime Minister took the official party line that while EU membership remained the priority for 2030, this would happen only in Georgia's terms of maintaining dignity. Putin praised the Georgian government. When the events started in Georgia, I, to tell the truth, watched all this with surprise and followed it. We have no relations with them, with the Georgian government, but I was simply amazed at their courage and character to stand up for themselves. This statement belongs to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Putin refers to the Georgia's government's this decision to abort EU accession talks. Putin said he was surprised by the courage with which the Georgian government defended the law on transparency of foreign influences, the same as Russian law. According to Putin, he was watching the events in Georgia with surprise. Here is a short timeline to how the Georgian dream led up to announcing the decision that day and what followed. The European Parliament adopted a resolution on Georgia's worsening democratic crisis following the recent parliamentary elections and alleged electoral fraud, which slams the ruling Georgian dream for the authoritarian shift, condemning the democratic backsliding in Georgia, including as a result of the allegedly rigged elections. The resolution also called on the Georgian government to hold new, free and fair elections within 1 year. With the exclusive participation of the ruling Georgian Dream Party members, the Georgian Parliament approved the government's program entitled Only with Peace, Dignity, Prosperity to Europe. The government program states that Georgia will continue its Euro-Atlantic foreign policy, also aiming to reset relations with the US. Following the approval of the government's program, the Parliament, which currently seats only the Georgian Dream members of Parliament, gave Irakli Kobakhidze's proposed cabinet a vote of confidence with 84 votes in favor and none against. No questions were asked from the floor. President of Georgia, Salome Zurabishvili, held an emergency meeting with the representatives of the diplomatic corps. The presidential administration reported the president summoned the extraordinary meeting after the Prime Minister of Georgia, Irakli Kobakhidze, stated that Georgia aborted the accession talks with the EU till 2028. The government also refused any budget grant from the EU until the end of 2028. The process had already been frozen by Brussels due to the Russian law and GD government's lack of commitment to the reforms. President Salome Zurabishvili made a statement after meeting with the diplomatic corps and opposition representatives, saying that the Georgian Dream's decision to abort the EU accession process has finalized the constitutional coup after the rigged October 26 parliamentary elections. She called on the EU to take all necessary decisions and support the holding of new elections in Georgia. President also called on the opposition to unite and urged Georgian ambassadors, civil servants, police and the army to stand by Georgian people today. After making a statement, the president joined the demonstrators gathered near the parliament. Dozens of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs employees have issued a joint statement in connection with Prime Minister Irakli Kobakhidze's announcement to stop EU accession. They expressed their commitment to Georgia's EU aspirations, stressed that the enlargement window that is now open may never be reopened, and if Georgia stops on this path, it risks facing isolation. At around 8:30 p.m. on November 28, parallel rallies around Georgia picked up. Locals started to gather in various regions of Georgia. There were rallies in Zugdidi, Kutaisi and Batumi. People in Tbilisi gathered in 3 places in front of the parliament, Georgian Dream headquarters and the presidential administration. Later, the rally combined in front of the parliament. Later, after the first cannons had been fired by the special forces, President Salome Zurabishvili joined the peaceful demonstration in front of the parliament. After joining the rally, the president went directly to the representatives of the special forces and tried to talk to them. She asked them, "Don't you talk to your president?" and urged them to think about their country, their children and their future. The riot police stationed near the parliament on Chichinadze Street began spraying tear gas and pepper spray at around 1 a.m. Several people were injured and required medical attention as they were sprayed in the eyes. About 1 hour later, the brutal dispersal started on Rustaveli Avenue. Unidentified people in black overalls, helmets and gas masks were operating in front of the riot police line, chasing and beating peaceful protesters. Meanwhile, the water cannons were blasting the water mixed with unidentified substances. The new water cannons that the Minister of Interior boasted about recently that were much more powerful than the ones Mia had previously used. During the whole protest period, Mia issued several statements. Their final judgment is that the peaceful protest exceeded the norms established by the law on assembly and demonstration. The watchdog Young Georgian Lawyers Association said in its statement that the protests on Rustaveli Avenue are being dispersed with the usual unlawful and disproportionate use of force. There is evidence of violations of the norms for the use of active special means, including the targeted use of pepper spray in the face and the mixing of two special means, a water cannon and a chemical irritant.
The Checkpoints is presented by pharmaceutical company GM Pharma.